Namaste. Welcome to a new Paradigm of Education podcast. I'm Monique Sayers, and today we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Kate Lesslie. And I hope I've said your name correctly, Kate. So what I wanted to do before I introduce Kate, I'd just like to introduce the podcast for those of you who are first tuning in. So a new paradigm of education is energy that's moving through the body, energy that's moving through the planet. It's that place of divine order, that divine purpose, that place where there's a sense of allowing things to be let go and a sense of allowing things to rise up into that perfect creation point. That will be different for each individual. That will be different across the planet. But what we all know for sure is the world has certainly changed in education in the last 2 years. What I really love about our guest today is that she's already placed her feet in the sand and chosen unschooling even prior to the pandemic. And it wasn't a choice that she's made after the pandemic, which I know a lot of you that are tuning in may be considering this in your life or may just want to make a change in any case, which Kate will be able to speak about. But I love your values and I love your philosophy and what you've actually brought forth in terms of unschooling. I'll read a little bit out about what Kate has shared about herself to give you a bit more context. So thousands of parents are realizing that the mainstream systems are no longer what they believed them to be, and they're shifting gears. So they're choosing places they feel that are more suitable, safe and aligned pathways for their children. So unschooling is becoming the new norm. Actually, that's just what I shared. It's interesting. So Kate is providing these trailblaze parents with all the tools required to take that ultimate leap and kickstart their life-changing journey with confidence and ease. She's a devoted mama bear of her 2 free-thinking bear cubs along the sunny coast of Australia. So we both share that in common. We're both from Australia. And through her one-on-one coaching and highly sought-after online programs, Kate is guiding sovereign, awake, badass families on their unschooling journey and showing parents firsthand how their children and the entire family can not only live a life without school, but also how they can flourish and thrive in a life without the limitations and constraints of the schooling matrix. Boom. That's how I'll offer it to you. If you'd like to just go into a little bit more about yourself, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Monique, for having me. I really love being able to collaborate with things like this where it can reach families, because at the moment, so many people are just like clawing at whatever they can get at the moment, because it's such a new way of life of existence for them. It's like they've just been thrown out of an aeroplane or off the side of a cliff and gone, okay, see ya, yes. Good luck. So definitely I have got that background in unschooling well before the pandemic and any of the stuff hit. It's been our way of life. And so from that experience and from the desire to help get these families into a grounded space, I've really gone a lot more into coaching and providing that space and those like programs and all those sorts of things for families. So as you did say, I've got 2 kids of my own. I've got a 13-year-old and nearly 9-year-old. And so I did go through all of the process. My oldest was in school for a little bit, and my daughter's never been to school. So I've got sort of the both sort of angles from the out of this mainstream system and into the world of unschooling, and my daughter who's literally just never stepped foot in a preschool or a daycare center or anything at all. So I've got the 2 experiences to be able to relate to parents with, along with, I guess when I first embarked on this journey, I didn't have, there were some family members who weren't that keen on me in embarking on it. And to be honest, I actually didn't tell anyone. I just sort of signed up for homeschooling straight up. And then, I just signed up for homeschooling and sort of did it without the knowledge of everyone, because I know that I came from a family where there was a lot of education and a lot of school is the way, and that's the conveyor belt and you don't get off it. sort of thing. So, and I grew up, you know, I was schooled and all the way through and went to the uni and did all that stuff and stayed on the conveyor belt as well. You know, so it was really just me being able to step into my power and go and see my child, you know, through the trauma and through the struggles and say, this can't be it. Like, this can't be childhood, you know. There has to be more here than what, you know, we're told is like required and expected and all of those sorts of things. And so that was really where it all triggered for me. It was that mama bear just going, I can't watch my child go through this day in, day out. You know, there was bullying and stuff involved and school trauma and all those things. And not everyone has that experience. Not everyone is doing it because of school trauma or anything, but there's different things that are igniting and they're becoming your reason and your drive, and all you need is that slither within you, you know. And from all the parents that I speak to with my coaching and all of that, they've all got the slither. That's the one common ground. The common denominator is that slither is in there, that part of their soul that's calling. It only needs to be tiny, but it's enough to go, there's got to be more here. There's something pulling me to know that there's more here. You know, there's more for the family, there's more for my child, there's just more to this bubble of a school, you know, building. Like there's there's just so much more to life, you know. And so many people, whether it was, you know, 10 years ago that you found this journey, or whether it was 10 days ago that you found this journey, you found the journey exactly when you needed to find that journey. You know, those callings or, and pullings at the soul, they're all exactly when they were supposed to come through. So people that are finding this journey through being thrown off the cliff, so to speak, you know, it doesn't mean it's not where you're meant to be. It just because it was a bit more of a rushed kind of, almost felt forced sort of environment situation. It doesn't mean it's not where you're meant to be. You can still trust that this is where you're meant to be, you know, because there are parents who are remaining in the school systems, right? So that's still their journey. They're still following that journey. If you've got that within you, that calling to say, okay, this isn't what was planned, but there's the part of me that's pulling me to say, no, I will not comply, whatever it is, whatever your reason is in this environment, in this situation. Climate. Well, if that's there, then this is, follow that path. It's for you. There's something bigger. There's something waiting, you know, to unfold and flourish and bloom and rebirth. You know, so one door shuts and then another door opens. That old chestnut, like, you know, it's such an old saying. True though. But it's so true to follow that and just trust yourself. Unschooling is so much more than I took my child out of school. Like, this is what I tell all the parents that I work with. It's a journey of self. It's a journey that goes like, and I love that, you know, it's called the new paradigm of education, because that's literally what it is. It is stepping into a whole new paradigm. It's a complete paradigm shift. And it's not something that you can just say, oh, I took my kid out of school and life continues exactly as if they were in school. Like, stuff just starts unfolding for you, and things just start, your eyes open to this and this and this and this, like each thing just starts rippling, and the ripple effect is unbelievable. The connection that can be developed and created and birthed, you know, even if you had a really like lovely relationship within your family and all of that, there's still something that happens that's next level once you step away from the system and you take back your power, and that autonomy over your own family, your own life choices, that, like, you know, all of the above. Like, there's something magical that ignites in you, and it's just like a new power source that you can tap into.
I love that.
Yes, yeah, it really is, and it just leads you to so many more things that you wouldn't have open to possibly before, or maybe you would have, but it would have taken you years and years and years, and your kids would have done their 13 or so ever years at school and then taken their year of gap year traveling around to find themselves and all that's like, you don't need to wait that long.
True.
You can have your family with you and do all of that stuff from right now. You can pull them out of school and start from right now. And anything that has, that it's never too late to start. It's never a right or wrong path. You trust your process. And even if you feel like, there's so much to heal within my family, I've yelled at my kids every morning, getting them to school, and I've this and of that, and they don't talk to me after school, and they grunt at me, and they this, and we're so disconnected. And I just want parents to know that it's never too late to heal those things and to just flourish and rebirth all of those sorts of things within your family. You can heal it from any point from now, and you just make that choice and set that intention, and things will start to, the connections, once you start to connect with the limitations of school out of the way, and the pressures and the get your shoes on, get your lunchbox, get your bag unpacked, blah blah blah, do your homework, all of that stuff, the bell's gonna go, we're late, blah blah blah, all the stuff, I've got to be at work, hurry up, get in the car. When you don't like just the morning routine, just not having to deal with that. I've had so many parents, and that's the biggest thing that they say about, is they feel like they can breathe and they feel like they've got their life. It's like they're able to actually live a life rather than just hit a schedule. Dung, 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 every single day. And you can just breathe and let go. So
there's so many things that you shared that I know people will probably have questions about, and probably you've been asked all of these kinds of questions before, but I just wanted to share that I really loved that you talked about the space of breathing and the space of like kind of finding yourself and finding your family again. And that is so special, because that is life. And what is life with just a schedule? Exactly. So it is totally a paradigm shift, what you were saying. And I think that's been the beauty of in a way the pandemic, because everybody has in a way had to come back home, as you say, like your mama bear coming back into their home physically, to then be like, what are we going to do, and reacting in so many different ways. And we did see trauma and fear and all of that, but we did see birthing of these amazing different things, like different businesses, like adults are choosing different pathways, therefore children are going to be choosing pathways. And I also see a paradigm shift in unschooling leading on to the paradigm shift in culture. Like, so people who are unschooled per se, perhaps because they're not used to this kind of routine, are not going to be walking to an office expecting to have a 5-day-a-week career, because all of that is all like the change of the treadmill, if that makes sense. It's just this open field. And I just love that. I love that that's so expansive, and that in itself is just one change of the generation. But beyond that, the better change that you're talking about is the emotional the emotional change and the feeling of connection.
That's like a full body response. It really is.
I fully hear your wisdom, and I take all of it in to reflect back to you, of course. And what I want to move into though is some more kind of maybe detailed responses, like what parents might want to know. Like what brought up my mind is like, but why wouldn't I just choose homeschooling? Why would I choose unschooling? Like, could you maybe just explain that to people that are considering that kind of way? And I know that you're an advocate for unschooling, so of course you have all the knowledge around that, but I know like a lot of people did have that option as well, so I'm really curious about that as well.
So a lot of people that do come through and reach out to me, there's a lot of confusion about what homeschooling is compared to what unschooling is. And there's people that sort of say to me, oh gosh, but if I unschool, well, people like, will they come and take my kids away? Like, like there's a real fear and a misunderstanding of what it actually is. And so homeschooling, really is that more sort of structured and adult-led learning, and you can have such an array from like very structured and traditional homeschooling where some people do choose to almost just replicate school within the home. And then all the way down to like relaxed homeschooling sort of stuff where it is a bit more of a flow with the child sort of thing. And there's a lot of stuff where people will bring in like the Montessori's and the Steiner sort of philosophies and all the Charlotte Mansons and all the different philosophies and stuff like that. So the home education umbrella is quite large. There's the distance education and all these, there's a lot of different variations that go along under the umbrella of home education. And then unschooling is really just a style of homeschooling and of home education. But I say in a nutshell, it's really just living as though school doesn't exist. Just live life as though school doesn't exist, and that it hasn't ever existed and it won't exist.
Amazing.
So you don't ever
what a shift.
have to do, and like if you think back to, tribal communities and villages and all of that, before they had all the schooling structures and systems and all the stuff, where everyone actually it was the village raised the children and they just learnt through living and through life, and they learnt the ways and they learnt all of the things that were ever needed for them. And it just all naturally came through their life and through living within the community and within the family. So unschooling is very much just living life uninstitutionalized, basically, which is a lovely quote that I forget whose quote it was, but it's quite a known quote in the unschooling world. And really just following the children's passions and desires and giving them that autonomy over their learning, and really stepping away and just being able to step away and breathe and allow your children and trust your children. Trust is the biggest thing that I tell parents in all of my coaching programs and things when I'm speaking with them, is trust, connection and consent. Unschooling is just ultimately trust, connection and consent. So following that and trusting your children, so many of us don't trust ourselves. And we've been raised not trusting ourselves. And so for us to then trust our children is a very gigantic leap, I can't, because we're so not used to even trusting ourselves. So it really is a massive journey of trust and connection. So I say, like in the unschooling world, that if you connection over curriculum always. So if you threw the curriculum out the window, nothing would happen. Your child would still thrive and flourish, and life would still continue, and they would learn and they would do things and they would discover things and all this sort of stuff. But if you threw connection out the window, shit would start going downhill very quickly. It really is so much more important, and that's really not just within the family, but it expands all the way out. Connection is key,
Totally.
So I always say to my parents that I'm talking with is connection over curriculum, as long as you're working and connecting and creating that nurturing, loving space and environment, children will flourish and they will learn, and for children and for humans in general, learning and living cannot be separated. It just can't happen. That it's not possible. And children live and learn as easily as they breathe, in every breath they're learning. And it's sort of from birth to 5, that's just unschooling. It's an extension of parenting, and then all of a sudden from 5 years old or whatever the school age is, wherever you're listening, around that age, it's like the system says, okay, we'll take that child now, thank you very much, and we'll raise them and we'll determine what's successful and what's not successful from here on out. but from birth to all
Yeah.
the way up, they're learning to walk and talk and crawl and climb trees and all the things. And that's unschooling, that's learning through life. And children have that natural innate ability to learn, and that craving to learn. They crave it, they source it out naturally,
Totally.
So yeah, I guess for families that are going, do I homeschool, do I unschool, there are a lot of families who the big jump straight, like it's like jumping straight into the deep end or straight into the ocean when you're on your first swimming lesson, so for some parents it's too much of a leap for them to say, I'm going to go straight out of mainstream and straight into unschooling and be like this radical unschooler and let my kids climb trees and blah, blah, blah.
The stereotypes.
That whole stereotype, it's ridiculous. It's not even a thing, but it is a stereotype. There are a lot of stereotypes and myths around homeschoolers and unschoolers, but very much around radical unschooling.
That's the old paradigm too, those myths, right?
Yeah,
we can go into those too.
It really is. And so what I say to parents is that if your heart and your soul and your everything is saying, we know there's more outside of this schooling matrix, and we know we want to be out of that system, but we're just, want to do it in baby steps or something like that, then it's okay. Whatever you're doing outside of, that school building is already another step in the direction that you want to go. So I tell parents not to beat themselves up or to think that they're not coping or they're failing or they're this or they're that, because they see all these, because a lot of people look at how I sort of live with my kids and how I talk about my kids in my programs and stuff, and they're like, oh, how can you do that? Like, my kids got to do maths and this and this and this. Like they're still very much in the conditioning that they brought with them from school, and their parents had from their schooling, and then the kids had from their schooling. So there's a long generational conditioning that is it's a process to let go of for some parents, and that's okay. So wherever you are in your journey, trust that, and trust that door will lead to something else, and that door will lead to something else. And as you get your rhythm and find, and you go through the seasons of the ups and the downs and everything, you'll still find your rhythm, and you'll find your little comfort of oh, that works for us. That really doesn't work for us. We're never doing that again. But this feels delicious and lovely. So we'll include this into our world. And it's just following that for your children, and for the family dynamic of what feels like it lights up the most sort of your days, you know what I mean, and following that. You don't need to compare, you don't need to, oh, well, this homeschooling family on Instagram does this and this and this and this and that, those unschoolers do that and that and that. It's like completely just comparison's the theft of joy. So just let go of all the comparing. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Just stay in your lane and do what feels right and aligned for you. So if that means starting with homeschooling and you're not ready to let go of maths yet, and you're not ready to let go of, whatever it is, then that's okay. You can trust that you're in that space, and it's just sourcing information and building your knowledge base and finding things that feel aligned and juicy for you, and for your family. So, and you can trust that over time you will expand, you will grow, you will let go of things that you were like, oh my God, like, in 3 weeks time, maybe you'll be like, oh my God, what are we doing maths for? We don't need that. Like, or it might take you 4, 5, 6 months or 2 years or something. I've had parents reach out to me that have been homeschooling for 5 years, doing 9 till 12 every day lessons. And all of a sudden they're like, we're done with that. We want to unschool. Show us how. How do we let go more? How do we let go more? How do we let go more? So so just always trust where you are is exactly where you need to be.
That's definitely the key. Trust that you've just mentioned. It's a big word, and it could be it's learning that trust within yourself. So as you're saying, the person who's listening already has that spark of interest because they're here listening, and that is really beautiful. And I wanted to reflect something back to you from one of our authors who's a child psychologist in America, who's had over 20 years experience and could write anything that she wanted about education in our book of The New Paradigm. She chose the term connection as her as what she thought was needed to be shared for the whole entire world. You know, she's been helping gangs like literally children from gangs in America, and they would come into her office, and she's like, all of that stuff goes out the window. All of the things I'm prescribed to do as a psychologist, all of that is gone. All of this system is gone. I'm there with that child, and I am connecting, and I'm bringing that to that child that maybe they've never had in their home life, or they've never had before. And I just wanted to reflect that back to you, that it's not just you, and it's not just unschoolers. Like it's a global thing. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're an educator or a doctor or a gardener or whoever you are. I really do honor that, and I really do feel like that is definitely the key. And the other thing you reflected was what my chapter was about, which was my chapter was about what you're saying. I wrote my own quote, which was, education is a process that's moving through your body. It's not something that's given to you. And it's like the wind. It's like a yogic breath. It's like breathing in and then just breathing out and letting go completely. And that, you know, education is happening at every moment. So again, I'm just reflecting that back. Here I am, an educator of however many years, doesn't matter, right? But that was definitely what I wanted to share with the world, that all the education that I've ever received in my life, and with the students from what I've seen in their lives, is just through them assimilating what they want. Like we're not there to show them things. They're going to do it anyway. They're like, you might be teaching in a class and they may be staring at a wall and learning about the color of the paint of the wall. Like they're not even going to be listening necessarily to what you're saying. Some of them may be wanting to listen, but it's just an example that you could be playing out in a forest and the children are learning through the wind, through the grass. We don't actually know what they're learning. Like it's not our job to actually capture it and go, oh, they're learning this, they're learning that, and control all of that with these little tick points that we do in schools, which I've had to do. You know, which measure just this tiny little matrix of information, not this whole big massive massive amount. I'm just putting it into context in a different kind of angle for people who are listening, to see that really education is happening everywhere and at any moment, and that child will be learning. So whatever choices they're making, it's definitely it's definitely beautiful that you've chosen to listen to this podcast and decide if unschooling is what's in your heart. And I love it. Like my whole heart lights up and gets so excited. I'm like, yes. This is the core of, like, almost like the core of the earth, like the principles of the earth. And here you are, just kind of in synchronization with them, you know, and just all they're blended. And it brings me to another point of maybe something that people might want to know, even myself. You know, we've had this kind of era of isolation, and school was always that place of, oh, well, if we just put them in school, they'll have some friends and off they go. So do you have friends? I'm sure you have friends, but like, what do you do as an unschooler, like with community and all that type of thing? Could you share about that?
Yeah, that's like, that's probably the biggest fear and myth of the unschooling, homeschooling, or that whole world, is they'll be unsocial weirdos. You know, like if they're not in school, they'll be unsocial weirdos. But there's another quote that says, forced association is not socialization.
Ah, beautiful. And, right. Yeah.
You know, like, and I love that, because that is quite literally what school is. It is forced association, you know, within one little age group. All the 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds are here, all the 8 and 10 and to 10-year-olds are here, and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. And so it's not that, oh, you know, we're wandering down the street and we're at the park and we really got to like this family, so we all bonded and became friends and got phone numbers and swapped, you know, like that sort of thing. It's like when you're thrown into a work, situation, you know, in an office situation or something, and they're the people that you work with, and that's it. Too bad. Like, you know, if you're in like with your cubicles and all of that sort of stuff, it's you have to sit there, and that's who you've got to deal with. But if you went out to a party or something and you got to mingle and pick and choose, like, oh, you know, I'll talk to that person for a little while, and they really weren't vibing with me. So I get that freedom to go somewhere else and find someone who actually vibes with me, you know, that sort of thing. Whereas the schooling sort of structure, the way, and not every school is like it. There are some alternate schools that have a little bit of a different sort of setup, but ultimately they're all within the box of the school grounds, and that's who you've got to choose from, you know. And then we've got the sit down and be quiet part of school, which goes for almost the entire day. If you take out the little bit of recess, for those kids who were, you know, naughty or were dragging behind, who don't get to go out for recess, who have to stay and do detention or do catch up on their work or anything like that. Even those little minute moments of socialization or forced association for those children is taken away. So and then when they're in the class, it's be quiet, sit down, stop talking and all that. So how much socialization, like real life socialization, is actually happening in schools? You know, and then if you actually go to a park meetup and watch sort of what's happening there, generally, like from the homeschooling, unschooling perspective, we'll go to homeschool meetups or whatever they want to call them. They call it co-ops and all the different things, but homeschool gathering, whatever name you want to put on it.
Okay.
And we like, there's a whole bunches of communities on Facebook and stuff like that. Just like if you were like a car lover, you would go on Facebook and search, you know, some sort of car, whatever they are, like sports cars in the like the area that you live in, and then all of those like specialty car groups would come up and you'd be like, oh yeah, we'll go to that on Thursday night, that on Tuesday night, blah blah blah. That's what homeschoolers do. We go on to Facebook or to the community websites or any of those sorts of things, and we literally just put unschooling and then your suburb, or homeschooling in your suburb, and the groups will flood down the page. It is so big, and especially I'm in the Sunshine Coast, as you mentioned, in Queensland, Australia, and it is massive here. It's massive. The homeschooling community is massive here. So it's almost a spot the school child here, because so many, I think there was like, the last I heard, there's like 2,000 parents a week signing up for homeschooling at the moment within all of this pandemic stuff.
Wow.
So that's a lot of people. And there's some of the Facebook groups that I know the admins have been saying within a 24-hour period, there's like 400-500 people joining in those Facebook groups. So they are just rocketing. And that means that all of those kids and all of those parents are there looking for friends and family, like people to hang out with and communities to build and all this sort of stuff. And it's so delicious. It's literally just creating this new paradigm, this new way of life,
really
this new norm, you know. So it really is, I feel the way forward is that this becomes the norm, you know. And it really just builds and builds and builds and flourishes. And when you're in the energy of it, like we are in the sunny coast here, you can feel the how rapidly it's growing, you know. And that once parents are out of the system and they get that first breath, it's like, you know, that newborn baby taking that first breath of rebirth. Like it's literally, you can actually breathe for the first time, you know, and all of the structure and all of the constraints and all of the shackles have dropped off you, and you're just able to breathe and move and just flow, you know. And so for those families, and then they're discovering, oh, we're not alone, there's actually thousands of people doing this as well, you know. So it's really, really, really delicious. And so socialization is 100% not a thing. It's very much a myth of the homeschooling world, unschooling world. It's, to be honest, when we first came out of the schooling system, it was, there's so many things to do. that you find yourself having to book in home days, you know, because they do all of the same stuff. A lot of parents feel like, oh my gosh, they're not going to get to do camps or you know, school concerts or formals or any of that sort of thing. But you know what, like homeschoolers, we're real living humans who live outside of a school building, you know, so we all do like the same sort of stuff that humans like to do, and we organize the stuff that children like to do, you know. So we have concerts and we organize things and we facilitate things. And there's, you know, when you take your kid to soccer practice or karate or whatever the things are that they do, generally they're outside of school hours. So all of that stuff is happening in the real world anyway. They're friends from basketball, they're friends from swimming, they're friends from this, from this, from this, from this. They're all friends they've met in the real world. You know, so, and it doesn't stop there. It just expands and grows, you know. So definitely the socialization outside of the school system, like where people think that doesn't exist, is an absolute myth. So you can rest assured that your child will 100% be able to find people if you are willing to facilitate all of that. It is everywhere. It is absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I really admire what I've been following. I'm from Australia, but I'm actually in Uruguay at the moment. And I've been following Australia, and I've been really like, it actually really moves me. I feel like being brought to tears sometimes with what I see in the world, that there really is a birth and a happening of this paradigm shift in education. It's everything that I felt in my heart when I was writing the book, and that it's really happening. Like, it's that everybody is part of this, like everybody who's listening, even just by listening to this podcast, that you are also part of this, that even every thought process around how can I serve my children better, how can I connect with them better, what can I do, what can I change within myself, how could I help them, all of that is helping. No matter what path you end up choosing, all of that is helping. And I'm just really, really grateful for this paradigm shift that is happening, that people are changing. They're like, we're done, we're changing, and it's global, it's happening, as I said, not just in schools, but in businesses and in all different areas. And it's phenomenal. It puts me in a sense of awe, actually, as you can probably see and feel within me.
I can feel it. Yeah.
It's just, you can feel my heart is like, wow. And it's what I'm here to do. I'm here for this act of service for humanity. So I'm really grateful to meet people like you, like, honestly, you know. And there's so many questions that people probably want to know about. So I guess maybe another one is like, well, for example, maybe I don't want to be with my children all day. Maybe that's like another thing that people think, like, I need a break, like, oh my gosh, all day with the children when I've been at work and they've been at school. Like, do you share your time with your friends, or like, how do you, like, that's kind of another thing that I was thinking in my head. Well, what do you do in that situation? Or some people just like, yep, I'm ready just to soar and just to be and to face all of that stuff that I didn't want to face by being with my child all day, you know, like just to be honest, like, that's just something that I just wanted to
So I actually do have, which I'll just quickly mention, is on my website. I do have a free masterclass where I go through all of the I go through the myths and fears of homeschooling and unschooling.
Perfect.
So it's about an hour long, and I go through that. That's free, always on my website, just at my name, which we'll put in the notes. And that's one of the things that, you know, sort of people do sort of talk to me about is, oh my gosh, but I be with my kids all day, because it's something that it's a new sort of way for a lot of people, where they're used to, you know, either the partner's at work all day and they're at work all day, and then the kids are at school all day. I'm hoping you can still hear me, because you're frozen, Monique.
I can hear you. You've gone a bit frozen on the camera, so we'll have some angles like this, but your voice is really clear.
So you're frozen too. So but yeah, and then it's from going from that dynamic where people are at work and kids are at school and, you know, you see each other just in the afternoon for a couple of hours and you quickly smash through dinner and homework and baths and all the stuff. And what was your day like? Grunt, 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 no answer, you know, and that sort of thing. And then into bed and start again. You know, it goes from that to quite literally 24/7 all together. And in some families that have been reaching out and talking to me, you know, in this climate, both parents have lost jobs, so they're both at home, and, you know, literally like the whole family is now here in this little ball of delightfulness, trying to balance and get used to each other's energy being there all the time. And I guess that's really what I try to gently remind parents is that you are, first and foremost, you're a parent. You signed up as a parent, so that entails parenting, you know. So it's really stepping into and owning that and saying, okay, I am the parent, and you know, taking back the power of raising your own children and not, you know, a system raising your children. And it can feel daunting because of the time, you know, shifts of the amount of time spent with people and different personalities and different energy levels and all of that. And it's really just working on what sort of lights up each person and how each person in the family, how their energy operates. So you might have, you know, a person who is very like go, 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 and has heaps of energy, and they're up at, you know, 5 o'clock and they go for their run and they do this and they do that, and then they're doing this and then they're off to the gym and, you know, all this stuff. And that's before they've even done work, you know. Or then you've got the people who prefer the slow mornings and stuff like that. And children are no different. It's just that children have been shoved in the car door, shipped to school, and don't have time for the family to even see that side of, you know, maybe they are a child who really does work so much better with a slow morning, you know. And it's really just finding those things and concentrating again on connection and those sorts of things in the house, because I find that a lot of the parents that come to me, the thing with that is that because the external pressures are so much of fitting into other people's schedules and other people's expectations, that heightens all of the stress levels in the kids, in the parents, in everyone in the household. And meeting those expectations and those demands constantly on repeat all day, every day, all week, every week, for continual years and years of schooling, to really dive into a deep soul level connection as a family. Do you know what I mean? Like even when you go on the school holidays, you find like kids take so long to sort of let go and release all of the school sort of energy that by the time the school holidays are over, it's all, you know, oh, time to start it all over again, when they really start to coming into themselves a bit. And I guess the thing is that when you've got, all of that pressure is off, all of those expectations and all of that, it shifts. And I know when I pulled my son out of school, it was such a, like, it was you physically saw the shift in him, that the pressure, the release, the everything, all that weight on this little 8-year-old shoulders that shouldn't be there. Do you know what I mean? All of that, like, that's a lot of pressure when you even just getting to school on time and getting out the door, one thing, just that's a lot of pressure. Like, that's a deadline that, you know, if you've got a boss hanging over you saying, I want you here by this time, you know, or you're going to get your name on the board. Do you know what I mean? Like, that sort of thing, just that one little thing. And then you put that and you layer on all the other stuff that happens in the school day, of where they feel like they're not good enough, where they didn't keep up with the other kids, where they weren't smart enough, where they did something wrong, where they got, any of that, they got laughed at, they, their lunch fell out of their lunchbox and they had no lunch left, whatever it is. All these tiny little things can all be such big things to their little souls, and they're there doing it by themselves without their parents, and often just in a group that is just of just everything that's running past them. It's just all just continues, they're struggling with something, and the world is just rushing past them. We've got to get there. The bell's going, la, 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 everyone get in line, la, la. And this, like, one child, two children, three, like there could be 8 children in that class having a real struggle moment. And it's brushed over, and it's this and it's that, like, they don't get to actually feel and process their emotions. They don't get to, find out what is true for them or what feels good for them. It's just do it. We don't have time for anything beyond that. So I got a little bit whirlwind in there, but
no, it's okay.
It's
it's beautiful what you were sharing. I really honor what you've been sharing, and I wanted to say what I feel from all of that is it's like just the term global awakening, and just sinking in with the heart of Mama Gaia is what I feel like. The paradigm shift of all of this stuff that you're saying is all not necessary, like all of this anxiety, competition, all of that, when all of that goes, and just sitting in the heart center, all of that's gone. There's no space for any of that. There's just nothingness. There's no space for any of that. It's just this space of love, divine love that comes from within. And I'm not sure if this makes sense to everybody, but this is what made sense to me when I was listening to you. And just that from that space is where unschooling can be placed, or these other, you don't even need to have a name for these type of experiences. It's just this place of living, this place of actual existence and living. So I really, really admire what you've been doing. And just before we close, I just realized the time we've been talking away. Hey baby, my baby's coming back to me. She want to see me now. In a second, baby. So before we close, I'd just love to honor you and just hear what you wanted to share or to offer with the world, and we can close from there. Thank you so much. You may offer your courses or whatever you've got happening.
Thank you. I always say I could talk for 5 years and still wouldn't cover enough of what the unschooling journey is about, because it's so about a journey of self. It is not, I took my child out of school, now what? It is so beyond that, which we sort of really went into a little bit, but you can go into it so much more. And I do, as I mentioned, I do have the Masterclass, which is going through the fears and myths of unschooling, which is always on my website. And then I have a self-study unschooling coaching program, which was like my 4-week program that I went through doing the live 4-week program. But I actually created that into a pre-record, like into a recorded one that's always available on my website, where I go through deschooling and what deschooling is, how long it goes for, what it looks like, what it feels like. And I go through all of those fears and myths again, and I go through everything a lot deeper, and how to approach unschooling, how to have those conversations about the transition out of school with your kids, and conversation starters and all that sort of stuff. I literally touch on, it's like 10 hours worth of me helping and guiding through the unschooling journey, from all the ins and outs and everything in between. And then I really go through exactly like through my folder and everything as well, and show people how we as unschoolers are able to still tick the boxes that need to be ticked to, do the reporting and all those sorts of things for the homeschooling department and all of that sort of stuff. So I do have all of that always. And then if you're in the Sunshine Coast, you're very lucky, because that's where I am. And I do I also actually offer one-on-one online coaching for everyone, everywhere. But in the Sunshine Coast, I'm just starting this new space where I'm opening up to do women's circles, where I'm doing unpacking, unschooling, and unschooling from the inside out. So helping mamas particularly to really create that power within themselves to be that foundation. So putting your oxygen mask on first is so important on this journey, and it opens up to such a spiritual journey. This, like, unschooling, it breaks down everything, it opens new things, and there's so much that comes through. And you'll find on this journey that having someone to hold space for you and that's been on the journey already is really empowering and inspiring, and to make you feel like, oh, I'm not alone here. So I offer that if you're on the Sunshine Coast. And yeah, obviously all of my links and everything will be in the show notes. But yeah, I'm really available in all different ways and ways and places all over social media. So yeah, anyone can always look me up.
Wow, thank you so much. That sounds beautiful. I'd love to be there with you, joining that women's circle and helping myself to help my child better. You know, we all need that place of nurturing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was getting at when I said global awakening was what came through as the core message.
Yeah.
It's just sinking in with that heart of the Gaia is what I feel. But wherever you're at in the unschooling journey or in your life in general, like, I'm just so grateful that you are here to listen and to learn some wisdom and to apply that in a way that's going to be helping you and to help you to serve humanity better, whatever that is, whatever step that is. So really, thank you so much, Kate, for coming on today, giving your time to our community. And thank you to all our listeners as well for tuning in to a New Paradigm of Education podcast. And of course, you can always reach out to Kate in all the links below, and myself as well. So if you need anything else, we're both here for you. And yeah, namaste, everybody. I'll sign off with that. Thank you.